recording. Okay, so welcome. Welcome to our Training Tuesday for Tuesday, April 14th. Our topic today is going to be couriers and automation. So how to automate items into your tenant from supported mobile storage solutions, and how you can further automate them to the screen if you choose to with clever playlists. So that is today's topic. Next month, we're going to be diving into a new way of scheduling content, a new way to actually interrupt and take over. So playlist scheduling is going to get some different priorities soon. Then in June, we're going to review some new player analytics options, some ways for measuring your player efficiency within your network. So we do have these sessions every second Tuesday of the month. And starting this month, starting next week, we are going to have another Training Tuesday session focused on our Korbyt booking platform. So that is going to be the third Tuesday of every month. And I'll make sure to share the link to register for that training and to follow up with these trainings as we go through class today. So that is our agenda today. We're going to talk about couriers, turning them on, setting them up, what they support, and actually walk you through creating them. And then we'll take a brief look at clever playlists again to see how those can be paired with a clever playlist. As always, please ask questions as we go through the training. Let me know how I can better answer and inform you about the feature. So our first topic, couriers. Couriers are a way to automatically connect to a compatible cloud service. Those cloud services are like OneDrive or Google Drive. It also includes Box, Dropbox, and Adobe Experience Manager. So here we are in my tenant, my training tenant. The journey with couriers actually starts in your system settings. So if you are a tenant administrator in Korbyt, you are able to, or an administrative level user, you're able to get into that little gear icon for settings. If you are in our classic navigation that involves the mega menu in the top left corner, the settings gear you will find in this area of your screen. Either way, it's a little gear icon that gets you into your tenant's settings. Then if we scroll down on this general settings screen, you will find an area for courier settings. When tenants are first created, these are actually all turned off. So an administrator in your system has the ability to decide, well, here we use OneDrive and Google Drive, and those are the two services we'll allow our users to create a courier connecting them to. So without these being turned on, end users of the platform have no ability to actually create a courier. So I'm going to turn those other ones off here. I do want to point out that Adobe Experience Manager is the only one that requires an overall user account to connect to the Adobe Experience Manager for your organization. The others are not at an organizational level. These are at a user level connections. I'm going to go ahead and hit save to lock those changes into my settings. If I just navigated away, I wouldn't have actually changed anything. And now we can actually take a look at creating couriers. You'll find couriers in the content section of your menus, whether that is our sidebar navigation, you'll find it in the content section, or if you have our mega menu, when you open the mega menu, you will find it at the bottom of the content section. So I'm going to go to my couriers page, and you'll see that I already have a courier connected. So this is what the page looks like when there's already a courier in place. You can have multiple couriers in your system. So this courier, it has a name. This was part of how it was created. The status, if there's errors or problems, it will let you know if there are any errors or problems with the courier. It tells you where the courier is connected in your tenant. Couriers copy items from that cloud source into a specific folder in your Korbyt Media Manager that you select in the creation process. The courier can apply tags to the items as they're being imported. In the drive folder column, this is the name of the folder in that service that we're talking to. The last time the courier was updated, I actually made some changes to it today. The update interval, how often does this courier run? The courier type, so this is the service it's connecting to. In this case, this is a Google Drive courier. And have you included subfolders or not? We'll talk about that in the creation process. And is the courier active? You can, with a courier in place, deactivate it. So I can turn off this courier. This is going to stop the periodic update process, but it doesn't remove the entry. So I could decide tomorrow to come back into the system, turn it back on, and it will start back up. The pencil lets you edit an existing courier, and the trash can lets you delete that courier from your system. So this is again, the couriers page. Found it through the content. Before we create a courier, I want my couriered items to go to a specific location in my media manager. So before I create the courier, I want to make sure that that location exists. I want my courier items I'm about to create to go into a folder called local content. I don't have that folder right now, so I'm going to create it. I'm going to use these three dots here in my media manager. I'm going to create a new folder called local content. That's just what I needed. Now I've got my local content folder. I'm going to go back into the content menu, again, either through the mega menu or the sidebar. Same place, bottom of that content section, you'll find couriers. And now I'm going to add a courier. So I click add courier. My courier needs a name. It needs to be connected to a specific folder. So this is where in my media manager, I pick that local content folder. I then connect it to the service that I actually want to connect to. And in our settings, I turned on Google Drive and OneDrive. So you see that those are active links. My cursor goes to the click the link type shape. But if I go to the services that I left turned off, they are blocked. So if you have all of your couriers turned off in your settings, that is the effect. You will have the little do not enter symbol on all the services. I want to connect to OneDrive, so I'm going to click OneDrive. Now, Chrome knows my OneDrive credentials. That's the web browser I'm using. If you're an Edge user and your Microsoft or Service credentials are there, it will walk you through either logging into that service if your organization requires it or not. I'm getting a pop-up here because I have used this before in my system. This is something that's a little hard to simulate unless I clear my entire cache. But the first time you use a courier service in your browser is going to try to block pop-ups from your Korbyt tenant. So you do have to allow them. You'll get the warning, please allow pop-ups. You'll go to your browser's pop-up notification area. In Chrome, it's right up here at the end of the browser URL, and you'll allow pop-ups. You'll trust yourservice.korbyt.com. When the pop-ups are allowed to pop up, I now have access to my OneDrive folders. So these are all my OneDrive folders that I have access to. I'm going to go ahead and select Courier Local Content. I'm going to show you what's in that first. So if I go into that folder, you'll see that I have subfolders inside of it. So I'm going to select that Courier Local Content. And if I stopped there, the only items that my courier right now is going to bring in are media items sitting inside of the Courier Local Content. It will not go any deeper. It will not grab those folders with those location names you saw. It won't grab those local pieces of content. What I need to do, if I want it to go into those folders, I need to tell the Courier rule to include subfolders. So now, not only is it going to select the Courier Local Content items, the things that are in that folder, it will go into the next folders and the next folders, grabbing the items and copying the folder structure that it finds. In the Media Manager, in my local content folder, once this runs, we're going to see individual folders that match what it's finding in my OneDrive folder. I'm going to tag these items local. So every item this brings in is going to be tagged local. You can have multiple tags here. Need to give this a rule. Call it Ed's OneDrive. You can see it's a name I use quite a bit. Now, how often can this rule run? Well, it can run as fast as every 30 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean top of hour, bottom of hour. It means when I hit save right now at 11:15, Korbyt's going to run this courier every 30 minutes. If I waited a couple minutes to 11:17, then it would be starting at 11:17, my time. It's going to run that courier every 30 minutes. So it's just that reoccurring every 30-minute timer. Other options are hourly or daily. I'm going to leave mine as 30 and hit save. It is letting me know that the courier is created and that up to 100 items will be imported. That 100 items is the standard item limit per courier. So just because this could really truly sink bandwidth, if it was connected to a service with thousands of media items and every, half hour we have to double check to make sure we have all of those thousands of media items, nothing's changed. It can really, take up a lot of bandwidth. So the standard courier item limit is 100 items per courier. Speaking of limits, a tenant has a standard limit of 8 couriers. So for the entire service, there can be 8 couriers created. Each courier has its own 100-item limit. Those limits can be increased. It is something that you can subscribe to more couriers or higher data limits. You'll want to talk to your Korbyt sales team to explore that option if just like 8 is not enough couriers. So that's the process of creating couriers. That is how they run. So now my OneDrive courier every 30 minutes is checking that OneDrive folder and copying any changes into the Korbyt Media Manager folder I linked it to. So that includes new items being added. And if I go to OneDrive and I delete an item, it will be deleted from the Korbyt Media Manager when that interval runs. It is a one-way connection, though. It is still just Changes in cloud affect Korbyt. Nothing that you do in Korbyt is going to push back out to that cloud storage. So this is still just a one-way connection. Changes made externally get imported into Korbyt. And that's Couriers. And I think I've talked long enough that my Courier had the chance to actually run. So if I go to local content, I haven't talked long enough yet. Takes usually a couple minutes the first time a Courier runs because it is grabbing all those items, creating the folder structures. But before too long, we will see those folders get created here in Korbyt. It does run when you first hit save. What questions can I answer for you about Couriers? Creating them, the limits, the settings to make sure the right Couriers are available to your users. Really, any questions about Couriers at all? What can I answer for you? Okay, not seeing anyone jump off mute, not seeing any chats or raise hands. Just remember those are always an option. Wish you guys had some more questions so I can get these folders to run, but that's okay. So the Couriers, they are doing one job. They are looking to that cloud source and they are copying items into the media manager. That's it. If, and this is an if, you want those items that are being automatically copied into Korbyt to then be automated out to a screen, that is possible. But again, that's an if. It's not a requirement. But if you're saying, geez, if this is going to bring in these local content items, can I have those items automatically play where they're supposed to? Yes. It would just be a matter of creating a clever rule in a playlist. So just a little refresher on playlists. If I go to the schedule section, got to scroll up, and I go to playlists, I could add this to an existing playlist, or I can just create a new clever playlist. I create my clever rule, and then I can pull that couriered content into this playlist two different ways. One is using tags. So I mentioned that couriers can tag items as they're being copied in. My Google Drive courier, which was existing before, uses the tag home. So it tags every item that's coming into that courier with just the word home. So this is home content. So anything that is tagged home, including items the courier brings in, but also including just anything else in the Korbyt system, because that is how tags are meant to work, gets pulled into the playlist. I can change how often each of those items show. So I'll say each item gets 21 seconds. I want to play all of the items that are being brought in. Within a clever rule, you can even control the order that the items play back. You can have it be random, or you can have it be like a file name, A to Z. So if you name the file like, image 1 or image 01, image 02, image 03, those would play in that order if you name them correctly. Hit add, and now my items are there. Can create rules as well that are tied to folders. My courier hasn't quite run yet because I don't have my subfolders. But you can tie it to a folder, that local content folder that gets brought in. I can say the exact same thing. Hey, if it's in that folder, every 21 seconds, and in a file name A to Z order. There's nothing in that folder right now, so it's just showing that blank. So now I've created a path. I've created a path where someone could drop something into my OneDrive folder, myself or a user that I share that folder to, or my Google Drive folder. If I share that to other users, I've now created a path where that person who I trust, because I gave them access to that folder, can drop an item into that cloud service, and between Couriers copying the item into Korbyt and the Clever playlist sending it out to a screen, I have now automated my screens based on that cloud service. What questions can I answer for you about tying Couriers to Clever playlists to get automation all the way to the screen? Okay. Some common questions that do come up, you may be thinking it and just don't want to ask. Or if you're going to see, is Ed going to answer this? So, a common question that comes up, especially when exploring Couriers all the way to screen automation, is how fast do the updates happen? So there's two systems that are running that are going to decide the time between I drop item into cloud service and I see that same item on a screen. The first time-based or interval-based piece are the couriers. So those couriers, oh, I have broken something on my might need to update my password for that one for my Google Drive. I was going to talk about that as well. So the first interval to be aware of is the courier. It checks for items as fast as every 30 minutes. So how long does it take the courier to get that item to Korbyt? Also depends on how close to the courier interval I was when I added it to my OneDrive or my Google Drive, for example. So if the courier was about to run, it's 2 minutes away from running it, and that user goes to my Google Drive and drops the item in, it might only be a couple minutes before that item shows up into Korbyt if the courier was about to run. At most, it'll be up to 30 minutes. So up to 30 minutes at most between I add item to cloud storage, Korbyt gets that item. That's interval one. So now item is in Korbyt. It is being automated onto a playlist. The media players, they check for updates automatically every 15 minutes. Let's see, I have a couple players offline in my training tenant. We had a power outage. I had to move some outlets around and have not gotten back to them. So the players, when active, check for updates every 15 minutes. So that adds 15 minutes to this at most process. Figure worst case scenario, my player checks in. The minute, after my player checks in, my courier runs, copies a new item in. So it is 15 minutes between the item showing up in Korbyt Media Manager before it shows up on the actual screen because of that check-in process. Worst case scenario, that user dropped it into that cloud storage just after it ran its update. So it took 30 minutes to get to Korbyt and an additional 15 minutes to get to the screen. So that's your at worst interval if you're thinking about synchronizing your screens based on a remote cloud folder like OneDrive or Google Drive.
A
Another
question
question. Oh,
And
go ahead, please.
what kicks off the 30-minute cycle? Is it as soon as you click connect?
It's when
Is
you click save on that
okay.
courier. Yep. That's what
It,
starts that 30-minute reoccurring. Or if you go to the courier, turn it off and turn it back on, you're resetting that 30-minute cycle. Yep.
got it. So if you wanted to say I wanted to run every 30 minutes starting at the top of the hour, you would basically need to look at your local clock and do it that
Yep.
way.
Yep, you could start that courier right at the top or bottom of the hour, and then every half hour on the half hour, your courier is running. Yep,
Got it. Thank you.
yep, yeah. Players, again, it's that rolling 15 minutes. So like if somebody reboots a player or says, "Oh, I need this to change right now," and they hit check in, like this player is now checking in at my time 11:28. So it's going to be 15 minutes from now when it does its next check-in. So again, at worst, 45 minutes between add item to folder and folder shows up on screen if you have set your couriers to a 30-minute interval. The other limit with couriers that people don't necessarily think about when they create them is in the process of creating that courier, you're logging into that service. Whether you type it or the browser feeds it, you are giving that service your current password. So for something like OneDrive, most organizations force users to change passwords periodically. When I change my password for my organization, that courier is going to stop working because the password I gave it when I created it is now not the right password anymore. So I'll have to go to that courier and actually update it if my password for that service changes.
With that, is there any way to set up a notification or alert of your courier has stopped working?
No, not that I've seen in terms of alerts. If you subscribe to Korbyt APIs, there might be an API trigger in there, but there's not a standard like player stoppage alert. The couriers do have messages when they fail. For some reason, my OneDrive and my Google Drive both today decided to fail. I may have been pinging too much playing around today because it was working earlier. So, yeah. But there's not going to be an error message that generates off these to like an email.
Yep.
You know, it's one of those like you have to just kind of remember like, oh, I changed my password today. My password's also being used inside of Korbyt. Um, and I'll share that couriers, while effective, while helpful, while useful, they are simplistic. And that's kind of by design. They're just using these services available APIs that let someone remotely grab items out of them. If your organization blocks those services from you being able to get to them and log into them, couriers are not going to get around that because you're not going to be able to authenticate to it. It also runs into limits like this is a user's OneDrive, not a corporate SharePoint connection. So I
Right.
do want to point out if you're looking at the OneDrive especially and you're thinking, well, this is, is there a larger company way to connect to company resources like SharePoint folders instead of personal user like OneDrive? Yes, there is. It is more involved, but it is possible through data connections. So data integrations, one of the type of integrations that you can have, I think I'm kind of maxed out, so I'm going to have to go into this NHL headlines to show it. Well, I'd have to delete it. But one of the templates available for templated data adapters is a Office 365 data adapter. So it actually connects to a SharePoint folder construction and it allows a lot more um, detailed, nuanced connection between item and Korbyt. Also requires an available data connection, a data adapter connection, and it requires someone who manages your Microsoft like Azure system to say, yes, we are going to authorize Korbyt to connect, and here's your client secret and your tenant information, and a much more involved process. Possible, just more involved. So if today you were looking at couriers and started thinking about automating content to your screens and said, well, couriers are nice, but they don't do enough for us, an Office 365 data integration for data for media items might be the way to go. What questions can I answer for you about couriers or clever playlists today? Okay. What questions can I answer for you about Korbyt today? The larger question. What questions can I answer for you about Korbyt?
I've got a question about the digital signage administrator user role, but I don't know if we want to keep your recording clean, Ed.
I don't mind recording it, Joel, if you don't mind me recording it. I don't mind.
Yeah. So
For anybody
we're
who's like not listened to join before, I generally stop the recording and then answer other questions. If you
okay.
have a
Yeah,
new
this one isn't associated with that, so totally up to you.
No, it's up to you. I'm happy to answer it on the record for you.
Okay. So we've got a use case where the buffer between approver and system administrator is the gap, and what we're looking at is device management, but have it be controlled.
Okay.
And my concern is to open up that level is going to give users unintentional access beyond their user group that we give them access to. So in theory, we put them in the user group and then they still can only see the devices, the folders, the functionality that we want them to.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I want to talk through the pros and cons of that digital signage administrator user role.
Yeah.
And the ability for folks to still create and build beyond that user role outside of that user group. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
I'm thinking,
Yes, it does.
yes,
Yes, it does.
if they can only see the player groups with that we've given them assigned to by that user group, they can still go in and create net new ones beyond their access.
So they can create net new player groups. Yes. And could they technically give themselves access to players that were initially outside of their access group? Yes. It is possible. It starts to rub against the edges of absolute security and more like we've set this up to help you only see the things you need to worry about. I would suggest, and this is nothing against your organizations, really speaking in general,
Sure.
that people you can't trust to do what you want shouldn't be administrators.
Yep.
So, if you're thinking about like they'd have to work really hard to get around the guardrails. Like it's not just a guardrail, it's a guardrail and a fence. As an administrator, they have some fringe access to kind of be able to climb over the fence, but they have to really want it. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, but like they'd have to really try. But yes, like starting to have like the difference between these two roles is small. Those administrators, if you just land them into the tenant, they'll only see what they're meant to see. They'd have to learn and do quite a bit beyond that to get around that. Like they'd have to know about creating player groups. They'd have to almost intentionally know and try to create a player group that's outside of the players that you've given them access to, because they're not going to see that those players exist or the groups that you haven't put them in. They're not going to see that those groups exist either. So they'd have to really be fishing.
Sure. But in theory, if they go in there at a player group with the criteria of include devices that have this metadata in there, they would be able to pull them in even though they don't see access to the players inherently.
Yeah, because the system is seeing those, like the system sees those players when you write that rule
Yeah,
that says, hey, find players in New York, in the state of New York.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, and we can double check that while we're here. Let's log out. Let me log in as my training admin. Double check that I am in fact in as an admin and nobody changed this role on me. My profile. Yep, admin. So let's see how I can push against those barriers. Player groups. Yep, add player group. And I can add a dynamic player group that goes against those roles or
Yeah.
the characteristics. Yep.
So then once you do that, they pull those players into this, then they could actually access the player page.
Well, they'd have to also give themselves permission to that group of players. So like if they were to lock it appropriately, they wouldn't be able to get but yes, they can in essence create a player group giving them access to players that they did not initially have access to.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah, again, it's the administrative barriers and guidelines. It really is meant to be more like a helping the user focus on what matters to them.
Mm-hmm.
With the thinking like they should be able to administer the system. Like you trust this user to some level to be able to administer what you're giving them, and that they won't necessarily go trying to break the system on you.
Yep.
Unfortunately. So let me ask, what is it that you're trying to get approvers that you currently have to be able to do that you're thinking they should be administrators?
Honestly, it's the device management for their subset. So the
Gotcha.
way we've got our structure is most of it's regional, location based, and approvers are more than sufficient because they're not going in there futzing with their
Mhm.
devices. But we've got some niche outlier devices that don't fit necessarily standard, and they do need to have in there and like maybe tweak some stuff because they're doing more experimentation or testing. Um,
Gotcha.
so to grant them access so that they're not coming to support every time they have a question, but being able to go in there and again facilitate that experimentation. The next step is administrator, but that also then sets us up for that new precedent, right? So when
Yeah,
other
it
members come
it
in, that
opens that up, and I
yeah,
think that is really truly a more of a HR discussion of we're giving you this access, we're trusting you to only use it appropriately.
yep, yeah,
And you'll know if they're not. Like the audit trail can give you all of the what they're doing in the system. So you can see if they create a player group they're not supposed to.
sure.
So it's not perfect. I understand, but
Yeah, it's not deficiency by any means. It's just how it
yeah,
works, and it's
yep. It's worth
where the outlier.
clarifying that and knowing the risks that are there if you do use it. Yep.
Yep, yep. No, that all makes sense.
Yeah. Are there other questions I can answer for you today, Joel?
Not right now. Nothing
Okay.
comes to mind.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you for following along. If you're watching the recording, thank you for following along with our recording. Again, Trading Tuesdays are every month on the second Tuesday of the month. We have a new booking Training Tuesday that is launching on our knowledge base, our product.korbyt.com page. We have our knowledge base. If you search training, well, helps if you spell it right. Training Tuesday, you will find the articles for both Training Tuesdays, the booking and the signage. So all of our recorded signage trainings and the reservation link, and soon the recorded sessions for our booking product. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you in training.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.